o'clock on the West Coast, and this is the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Pleasant Hill Recreation and Park District. I will ask now Michelle to put up our virtual flag and start the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just a reminder that all board members, staff, and members of the public are participating by teleconference. This board meeting is being conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Brown Act and a recent executive order issued by the governor to facilitate teleconferencing to reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission at public meetings. Ordinarily, the Brown Act sets strict rules for teleconferencing. The governor's executive order has suspended those rules. The executive order does require that we continue to notice meetings in advance. The district has met all of the applicable notice requirements. The posted agenda for this meeting includes instructions for how to participate by teleconference. Participants are able to connect via phone and or computer. We are using the Zoom webinar platform. As noted on the agenda, members of the public may observe the teleconference meeting. Members of the public may offer public comment by email to skubota@pleasanthillrec.com. That's skubota@pleasanthillrec.com prior to the close of the public comment period for the agenda item on which they would like to comment. Staff will share all such comments with the board at the meeting, subject to the time limits applicable to public comment, and make them part of the record. Alternatively, members of the public may offer public comment orally during the teleconference by using the raise hand feature on the Zoom webinar to indicate that they would like to speak on a particular agenda item prior to the end of public comment. Members of the public will be on mute until it is their turn to speak. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes per item and will be muted when that time has elapsed. Because we are all not in the same room, all votes at this meeting will be taken by roll call. Like all our board meetings, this teleconference is being recorded. Now I would like the general manager to proceed with roll call and confirm certain matters for the record. Michelle.
Thank you, Chair Chess. Board Member Tran, I see you're on the call. Can you hear the proceedings well?
Yes.
Board Member Vincent, I see you're on the call. Can you hear the proceedings well?
Yes.
Secretary Benato, I see you're on the call. Can you hear the proceedings well?
Yes.
Vice Chair Glover, I see you're on the call. Can you hear the proceedings well?
Yes.
And Chair Chess, I see you're on the call. Can you hear the proceedings well?
Yes, I can.
Everybody's here.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. We have gone through the first three items, and we are now at item 4, which is public comment. And again, this is for members of the public to speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda. I would imagine there are attendees that are here tonight to speak on agenda item 7, but this item 4 is for comments for items that are not on tonight's agenda. Do we have any such public comments for tonight, Michelle?
We do not have anybody raising their hand. And Susie, did you receive any public comment?
No, I haven't received anything for general public comment. No emails received except for just item number 7.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, then we'll just move to item 5 tonight, which is the report from the general manager.
Great. Thank you, Chair Chess. I've provided a brief staff report for the general manager report. I had a couple of things I wanted to add. One, just a reminder that we're closed. Our office closure is next Thursday and Friday. And then a number of staff, including your general manager, will be taking Wednesday off. So we'll be light staffed next week. But there isn't a lot going on, so that should not interfere with anything. And then I just wanted to highlight, staff has been diligently working on continuing to adjust to the pandemic and offering events in a pandemic environment. And as you all most likely well know, the Holiday Festival is a treasured event that normally brings thousands of people, probably close to 500 families plus, out to the community center. And if you've ever walked down the halls of a community center during that event, it's wall-to-wall people. And since we really can't bring that many people together at this point in time safely, staff has pivoted again, and we're doing a drive-through event on the 8th of December. Hopefully the board will be able to drive through, come say hi. I want to thank our community partners who have stepped up to provide some entertainment and as well as other things for this event. The event is called Around the World Holiday Express. And so I'm really trying to focus on holiday traditions from throughout the world and different cultures. And so that will be really fantastic. And so I want to thank the Chamber, Republic Services, PD, and the host of others that are helping us to pull this off. I'm really hoping this is our last drive-through holiday festival event. I'll be honest with you. I know the holiday festival is one of those that we all love. It's our big thank you to our community. And so hopefully next year we'll be able to do that. We just lost a board member. So that is that. And then with that, I'll take any questions because that was the only additional comments I had to make. There she comes.
She comes back. Any questions for the general manager? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, seeing none questions, then I'll move on to item 6 for tonight, which is the consent calendar. This is obviously to approve bills to be paid and approve the minutes of September 23rd and October 14th meetings, and as well as approve the resolution 2021-11-18, which approves and directs the continued use of remote meetings and teleconferencing for all board and board subcommittee meetings pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361. There any questions? Okay, to Michelle, Board Member Tran.
Oh, just a correction on the September 23rd, 2021 meeting minutes. In my report, there was reference to soup kits, and so they were not soup kits, they were activity kits for Hispanic Heritage Month. So if you have to be corrected, there were activity kits in a box at the library for pickup. Okay. That was it.
Excellent. We'll make that change.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Michelle? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to consent calendar.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Okay,
I'll second that with thanks to staff for getting all caught up in the minutes.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Thank you very much. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Board Member Tran.
Yes.
Board Member Vincent.
Yes.
Secretary Bonato.
Yes.
Vice Chair Glover.
Yes.
And Chair Chess.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on right along here to item 7, which is to authorize the general manager to solicit requests for qualifications from interested firms to conduct public outreach and provide final conceptual design services for integrating a bike park into Roger Smith Park. So what we'll do tonight is we'll have a staff report with an opportunity for the board to ask questions. At that point, a public comment will be entertained, and then we'll close public comment, and at that point we will have board comments on the item and and then a particular vote. So with that, Michelle, did I sum that up okay for you?
Yep. But in addition to board comments, it would be board discussion on any
board
direction.
Discussion. That's kind of what I meant.
Yeah, comments and discussion. So I just added the project sponsor Danielle Dreyer to our meeting because she's going to provide some comments after the staff provides comments. So first of all, I wanted to just give a brief update as to why we're here with this particular request for qualification. So the board had provided direction to staff to work with the Bay Area Bike Project to develop an MOU to bring us to a project of a potential bike park at Roger Smith Park. We have been working with the Bay Area Bike Project to attempt to come to an agreement on the MOU. We had decided that the MOU really needed to be in 2 phases. The first phase being getting us in conceptual design and analysis to get a project that the board could review to potentially approve. And so, that would come to as a complete package to the board for that. And then the second MOU would be for construction and moving that project forward. And so, we had initially had some back and forth conversations. This phase of the project was always considered as part of that initial MOU. The initial, the final conceptual design and analysis for a final project to be approved. And so, when during those negotiations, we were unable to reach an agreement between the Bay Area Bike Project and staff on how much we believed that the cost of this phase for the consultant to create a final conceptual design and for us to complete the analysis was going to cost. The environment right now is pretty volatile, and so there's kind of a lot of unknowns. And so, in order to move forward, we decided that the best course of action that we could agree upon was to come to the board with a request to go out to solicit a request for qualifications from qualified consultants to be able to come up with an understanding of what the cost would be for that phase. And then we could come to the board for an approval of an MOU with the actual not to exceed costs. And so that's why we're here today. Typically, staff would not necessarily, if the board had already approved a project, you wouldn't necessarily see this step. You kind of see the second step, which might be an approval of a contract. But since I was given specific direction by the board at the time to come with an MOU, and we need to believe we need to change course, that's why I'm coming to the board to request that. As I mentioned in the report, once we get a scope of work from an agreed upon contract amount with a selected consultant firm, we would then come back to the board with an MOU with the Bay Area Bike Project that would identify the costs that they would cover for that phase, and then the board would approve that before we would enter into a contract with the consultant. As the board recalls, the caveat for moving forward with this project was that the Bay Area Bike Project was fundraising, and that they were going to provide funding for this project. So that is where we are. I have included a draft of the RFQ. The Bay Area Bike Project did provide comments on that. We accepted, we worked on that together. So I believe that from all intents and purposes, they're in agreement with moving forward with this step, so that we can continue to move forward. And so, Danielle, did you want to add anything? There she is.
Hop on here. Hello, everybody. Michelle, thank you. I think you pretty much covered everything. I think just take this time to say that Bay Area Bike Project, we are honored to help the district bring this bike park to Pleasant Hill. And we want to thank the district for their collaboration with this project. So thank you. We also want to thank the amazing community. I think there's probably a few community members on this call tonight for all their support, the emails, and just our events and showing up meeting after meeting. We definitely know how important this project is to you, and we are committed to bringing a safe biking space to Pleasant Hill. We are looking forward to tonight and the potential approval of the RFQ so that we have a design to lead the process moving forward. So, I'm looking forward to answering questions, helping you, Michelle, in any way we can to continue moving this process forward. So thank you.
And I'll add one more thing. So, the Bay Area Bike Project put a lot of thought and effort into a preliminary conceptual design, which, is a great starting point for, we think that it might work in the park. But this next step, it puts some nuts and bolts into it in that, we get a lot more specific as far as setbacks, relationship of this new amenity to other amenities. Staff has done some preliminary work. We've walked out, the dimensions of the baseball diamond, for example, and we're pretty sure that it would work. But we haven't done any topographic surveys or any of the technical things that you need to do to make sure that the size that that is initially contemplated will actually work with all the other amenities. And so, this is going to confirm that. Let us know if there are any changes that need to happen for either from the preliminary design or anything else that comes up in the community, things we need to address to make sure that this works in this particular space. So that's kind of the purpose and kind of what we see coming forward with this. So Chair Chess will answer any questions the board has before you want to open for public comment.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Danielle, as well. So, I'd like to open this up for questions to the board here. I guess these questions could be not only to Michelle, but to Danielle as well, right? Is that accurate? Okay. So, yes. So, I'm opening it up for questions from the board. Secretary Donato.
Yeah, my first question, Michelle, is what consultant, what types of consultants are you selecting to send this out to?
We'll send it. We'll make a broad announcement on a number of websites for architects and engineers. I anticipate that those that would be interested would be landscape architects, and that they would be the lead consultant. And then they would assemble a team, so especially if it's a landscape architect and he's worked with a, skate park, bike park, consultant, that would be part of their team. They would have some other consultants that were specialists that might be part of their team. And so I'm anticipating it'll be mostly landscape architects who respond.
So the expectation then would be that they would form a team of people that would, or other professionals that would be looking into all aspects of the feasibility of this.
Yes.
Okay. I thought the RFQ lacked some specifics about the sorts of reports that might be sought from the consultant. And so wondered a little bit about what you thought about the details that would go out. If in fairness to the bike park people, we're trying to get a price for this phase of it. I just want to make sure that what we get is going to really be reflective of the amount of work that would be needed for this particular phase. And it just seemed a little kind of open-ended.
Yeah, that is part of the part of the professional consultant, specifically in this type of RFQ, is that we have a goal to be met. We have a preliminary design, and we want somebody to come in and to examine whether that fits and how that fits in. And we put in the goals and what the scope of work is, and we want to see in their proposals how these consultants are going to address those things. And so we don't necessarily want to give them everything that we expect of them, because we might limit them. And so I think we just put as far as technical things, we put in noise, but typically when you're adding a new amenity into an existing park, the types of things that might, in addition to to noise, that might be part of the analysis, might be parking. It might be the needs of other amenities, and so so we just chose noise as an example, because I think that most consultants teams will be looking at, if you're adding a new amenity into an existing park that's already used, how is that going to be impacted? And parking would be one of those. And we could be more specific and add parking as another potential or another technical study, but we really wanted to kind of leave somewhat open-ended so we can see how they would address this. And so
Okay, thank you. I'll probably have some comments when we get to board discussion. Thanks, Michelle.
Any other questions? Vice Chair Glover.
Yeah, first question. So December 22nd would be the deadline to submit. What's the time frame after that to get the information back and then ultimately, come to consensus on an MOU?
So those are due on the 22nd. That last week of December is kind of a dead week. So staff will be reviewing those proposals probably that first week, January 3rd. We're looking at consultant interviews if necessary on the 12th. And with that, our thought is to come back with an MOU at your second meeting in January. Would be the thought, would be that second meeting, and then we would award a contract at the February 10th meeting. So that is the thought right now.
Thank you.
I think you said you had another question, Bob, didn't you?
I think it was kind of ruled moot, but maybe I'll just ask it for, are any concern about this coming forward, in the holiday season that we might limit our access to folks? Or
it'll depend on how busy folks are. So right now we'll have it open until the 22nd. We'll figure out how many qualified proposals we get. And then if we need to extend that time, we can. But I don't like to give too much time for consultants because they have a tendency to, just wait. So yeah.
Any other questions? Board Member Tran.
Thank you, Chair Shes. I know that we're the purpose of the RFQ is to actually get a price, but is it appropriate for me to ask what was the spread between what we thought it would cost and what by project thought it would cost? I know that there was an estimate of about $500,000. Are we very far apart with that, or is this something that we just have to wait and see?
I don't believe we're not that far apart. Staff believes it's about the total design costs are going to be about 10% of the projected price, and so that is so that's what we believe the full design cost will be. That includes construction documents. We weren't that far apart. But the problem is that as a staff member, I can't come to the board and recommend an MOU with a number that I don't feel is realistic. Having just recently got a topographic survey estimate for that park at $10,000 and another one at $26,000, the delta is fairly large. And so I think I think it's kind of where this up in the air. We're not sure. So since neither of us are really sure, let's just get an actual price. So then that way we can all be confident moving forward. So, because the Airback project has to raise the funds and commit to that. So, so they have to be comfortable with that. And I think doing this due diligence will help everybody to be confident with that number.
And can I follow up with how much is the RFQ going to cost us, or not, or is the district paying for that, or is my project paying for that?
So the RFQ process itself, the only thing it's costing the district is staff time. So it's costing my staff time, of which the district has already committed to move this project forward. So, but once we have a consultant on board, that will be part of the fundraising promise from Bay Area Bike Project. So it's costing you time, my time that's already, that we're already paying for.
I feel like I'm monopolizing. I will stop for a second and allow others to ask.
No.
Keep going.
If you have a question, feel free, Board Member Tran. Go ahead and follow up if you have another question.
Since I'm a newer member, I have a more of a historical question. I was trying to read through all the prior meeting minutes on the October 22nd, 2020 meeting. At that time, the recommendation was to move forward with negotiations for the MOU prior to proposals and actual design process so that we can have that agreement ahead of time. Do we think that this RFQ sort of circumvents that intention of moving forward, where an RFQ then sort of commits us to the project before then the MOU has actually been laid out in place? So what if the RFQ comes up, I don't know, I'm just going to $800,000, and the Bay Area project says, no, we can't do that. You've now committed to an RFQ, and this is sort of a roundabout way to get at that, no? I'm just trying to understand.
No, there is no commitment. So we did attempt to come back to the board with an MOU, and so the MOU would have included the cost to fund this phase. And so since we couldn't come to an agreement on that cost, and we're just pulling the fact finding on what this phase would cost ahead before we finalize an MOU. And so this isn't committing us. We can get as many proposals and requests for qualifications from consultants as we would like. And this in no way commits us to entering into contract with any of these consultants. And so if you say it's super expensive and the Bay Area project says, yeah, it's too rich for, we can't commit to that right now, then we would then at that point in time not enter no contract. And so we'd either wait till a better time, go back to the drawing board, look at other options, but we're not committed to any consultants by soliciting RFQs.
And then just can I ask one more question?
Sure. Yeah.
So I sort of understand that we have a commitment to the bike park concept in general because it was built into the master plan. But I couldn't find where the board committed to the bike park at Rogers Smith, but not the MOU. I just want to understand, are we committed to the bike park at Rogers Smith, or we just committed to a bike park pending a proposal about a design potentially at Rogers Smith?
So the board's not committed to a bike park anywhere in any way, shape, or form. So the board has committed to moving forward at looking at a bike park. Agree that it's a priority. It was in the master plan. The Land and Facilities Committee looked at a number of sites and recommended the Rogers Smith Park site. And at that point in time, the board did authorize the staff to move forward with an MOU for a bike park at Rogers Smith Park. And so that is why this particular RFQ is for Rogers Smith Park, because that's part of that MOU for Rogers Smith Park. And so this is one of those steps. And so if we would have been able to come to an agreement on the potential costs, you'd be seeing an MOU for Rogers Smith Park, and then I would go out with this RFQ. And so this is just a step that I took out of order, and I'm bringing it back to the board as information, as well as hey, I'm changing your direction. So that is what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Okay. I have to internalize for a second, but I'll mute myself for that second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I believe Board Member Vinton, you had your hand up, I believe.
Yes, I have a question for Danielle. Can you tell us what your fundraising status is as of today for this potential project?
All right, I'm unmuted. Hi, Sandy. Thank you for the question. So we've been doing some light fundraising for this effort. We have attempted to go after a couple grants that were denied just because of the purpose that we don't have official approval from the district. But we've had some good success. We basically have in the bank what we initially thought the design would cost us, which was the $9,000 dedicated for this project. majority of that came from the community group GGCC, and then some of the other funds came from some collaborations with some organizations in the local community. So they've been pretty light thus far, and mainly because a lot of people are not opening up their wallets unless we have a firm go in approval for this project. So we're still really confident in our fundraising plans, and we're really excited to be able to get to that MOU so that we can indeed start going after some of our funds that we've had promised in the past, and some of the funds we've had conversations about in the recent weeks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, then staff, I'm sure we have public comment by email, or are we going to open it up to public comment? People here raising their hand, Michelle?
Well, if people want to raise their hand to speak, we can start letting them in. I know that Susie, can you let the board, for the record, know which emails you had forwarded to them earlier today?
Yes, I did forward 3 emails, and they were from Kevin Baker, Derek Wurst, Max Galino. Those were forwarded to the board earlier today for their review, but we haven't received any new emails. And those emails that were forwarded to the board were in support of a bike park.
And we did get an email from Matt Atwood saying he wanted to speak. So Matt, I'm going to allow you to talk. So I see Matt here, so.
Hi, my name is Matt Atwood. I live at 25 Belmont Court here in Pleasant Hill. First, I'd like to thank you all for being here and for the service to your community. Much appreciated. I was part of this process back in 2020, and during those board meetings, I kind of was motivated to kind of give back and began volunteering actually with the Bay Area Bike Project. I helped lead some kids' rides and bike classes. Through that, I was able to see just how awesome it is to get kids on bikes, have them have a safe environment to learn how to ride, and just that Bay Area Bike Project is really doing this all for the right reasons. They have the right kind of energy. They're excited. They just kind of want to create a better community for cyclists in the area. Parks similar to this have been proposed throughout the Bay Area, and most of those parks, actually the cities have been, and the districts have been paying for them. So this isn't something new to the area. It's been done. We'd love to see this kind of keep growing. I think it'd be a great asset to the community. I ask that the board puts their weight behind this and makes this project come to fruition. I think it's going to just be an awesome addition to our whole community. And with just putting more support behind the project. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I have Chadwick Weiler.
Good evening, everyone. Chadwick Weiler here. I don't think there's video. I serve as the chair on the Pleasant Hill Planning Commission, but I am here tonight as just a citizen of Pleasant Hill and a dad. My kids were here to comment, but they got bored after 33 minutes of board meeting and ran off. I was showing my kids the plans tonight, and the 2 of them were absolutely ecstatic. I got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. We're able to ride our bikes to school at Pleasant Hill Elementary, even with the crazy traffic on Pleasant Hill Road. My wife and I both went to UC Davis. That's actually where we met. Big biking community, for those that know. If you know, you know. We see a piece of that here in Pleasant Hill, and it's been developing more and more over the almost decade we've been living here. And we think that the bike park would be an excellent addition to the city, as well as the whole region. I mean, these things are pretty few and far between. And I think it'd be an awesome draw for the community, pull folks in from neighboring communities, and also drive, I think, business visits to the commercial center on Gregory and Pleasant Hill Road, as well as downtown Pleasant Hill. So I could see this as being something that the Chamber of Commerce could probably get behind too. I think it'd be an extremely valuable asset to all of us. Thank you so much for considering this.
Thanks, Chadwick. I have Kian Amili. I'm not sure if I.
Hi, yes, it's Keon Amelie.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I live right here in Pleasant Hill, 273 Gladys, and I have a lot to say about the bike park project. I've volunteered some of my time with the Bay Area Bike Project, but if the vote is just simply to say, yes, let's get some prices, I think it's a slam dunk. And again, I thank you guys for your time. I thank you for the service that you have. And, I have 2 kids, 6 and 3 now. And we're avid bikers, and having something like this in our community would just be such an asset. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I don't have any other hands raised. Sarah Tinsley.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello. Thank you very much for everybody's time and attention to this project. It really does sound like a very important one. I feel like the lone voice here of coming a little late to the party, just a little hesitant about the fact that it's being proposed at Roger Smith Park, which is a pretty small park. And I'm just wondering if the ship has already sailed as far as the location, or if there is still any consideration to one of the larger parks in the area that might have maybe be a little bit more appropriate for this kind of project. I noted that you talked about the study looking at, the proximity to the baseball field, and being in the neighborhood myself and at the park pretty much every day. I've just sort of noticed how that patch is actually being utilized by some of the smaller little t-ball groups and younger soccer kids, and I'm not sure where those activities are proposed to go afterwards. But I just, in living close to the Paso Nagal Park, for example, and some of the others, I'm wondering if that's still a possibility that perhaps this great project that everybody's so enthusiastic about might be more appropriate at another park, and not a small one like Roger Smith, where it'll completely change the makeup of the park and the activities that are currently happening there.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other requests to speak? Seeing none at this time, Zach.
Okay, at this time we'll close public comment. Thank you for all of those who hung out and braved the 33 minutes to offer your thoughts on this topic. So thank you. We really appreciate hearing from the public.
Just got one more. Tommy Hendrickson, would you like to let him speak?
Tommy Hendrickson. Okay, absolutely.
Okay. And if there's anybody else, we're going to cut off public comment. So please raise your hand now.
Yeah. So, can you guys hear us okay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's Tommy plus a bunch of other guys here from the Gregory Gardens community crew. You look great, Danielle. Yeah, we just wanted to voice our support. We weren't going to take a whole lot of time here, but we feel like it's necessary to do this to build a bike park. So, around the room, Justin, build a bike park. Build a bike park. Thanks, guys.
Okay. I think that's everybody.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Thank you. I have one more. Harpreet Johal.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I also wanted to just kind of echo the comments of some of the others, and this is something that I've been following closely. We've talked about it before. Michelle, just shared some emails together, and we're really looking forward to this. I mean, I'm an active member of the community. I have 3 kids, and a lot of our neighbors with kids, we've talked about this and started a little fundraiser. But it's definitely something that we would love to help. If there's anything you need from us to put our minds together, we put our hands together and help out build it, or whether it's fundraise, but we're all in this together. Would definitely love to support and see this come to fruition.
Thank you. Now you can close public comment.
Public comment is closed. I'd like to I'll open it up to comments from the board. I'd like to start. David Allen.
I'm in support of authorizing this evening. We have, as a board, supported the idea of working with the Bay Area Bike Park group, and we've also needed to make sure that this is the right proposal. And I guess I'm a little concerned that there wasn't enough close meeting of the minds about exactly what this feasibility piece was going to cost. And so I do think that, in fairness to everybody, including the Bay Area Bike Park people and our board and the public, that we do find realistic numbers here. I guess my only concern, Michelle, or board, I guess at this point, with the proposal, is that when you go out with a request for proposal or qualifications, you do want it to be fairly specific so that you get apples to apples proposals from people. And I guess I'm just a little concerned that if we just wait to see what people are going to present to us, what they think we want, that isn't quite the way to go at it. So I guess my proposal would be to at least articulate a few of the sorts of things we would like this consultant to look into in terms of feasibility, so that it's not just left open. I guess my concern is that on December 22nd, we're going to get a variety of proposals that really may not move this into a position where we can make a decision on it in February. And parking is just one of those things that I think all of us, have talked about from time to time. So I don't see any real reason not to be a tad more specific about it. And so while I'm in support of sending this out, I think I would recommend that we be a little more direct about what it is we think this consultant will be doing.
Thank you. Any other comments? Board Member Tran.
I sort of want to qualify this because I have a number of different hats on. I have my excited dad hat with my daughter over there, who is looking forward to a bike park. But I wasn't elected to the board to be a dad. I was elected to try to be a steward of the resources that we are charged with. So I do have a couple of comments and questions, not with the dad hat on, but with the board member hat. I have three. They're sort of complex, but I'll just have sort of the first comment. The first is I really like the idea of a public-private partnership. I think it's great that if this is going to be our first partnership, then it was probably the best partner to go with. Danielle, Bay Area Bike Project, sounds like it's been a great partner in all of this, and that's fantastic. But what I haven't really heard a lot about in terms of moving forward with this is sort of the framework in which we should be approaching partnerships in general. I sort of feel that we're kind of doing this ad hoc, roundabout way, get an MOU, maybe not get an MOU, get pricing, see what it looks like. It's been very ad hoc in nature. So are we going to be doing this for all our future partnerships? Why hasn't there been any discussion in and around what ground rules we should be applying so that we can be consistent? And the reason I say that is because there was a public comment a number of meetings ago from a supporter of the bike project, who also made a really, really important point that I think was sort of left to the wayside a little bit. will this particular project actually set a precedent on how we then engage with the community or community partners? Are we saying that any group can come in with $500,000 proposal and some supporters and then expect to get their project built on district land? I mean, we have to think about that and what kind of precedent we're setting. I think it's really important to talk about this before we actually move into the next phase, because of what was written actually in the master plan. And the reason I bring it up is because I know that it was last minute that bike park was brought up or put into the master plan because of all the support that it garnered. But if you look at the master plan, a bike park ranked 25th on the list of community priorities. And if I recall correctly, the consultants that did that survey were so confident in their survey, they said that if you repeated it 100 times, they would get the same survey 95 times. And so what do we say if somebody comes in with $500,000 and said, I want to improve the schoolhouse project, I got a bunch of supporters, are we going to say yes to that? That was the 16th priority, right? Or what if somebody says, I have $500,000, I want to build a riparian buffer so that I can protect Grayson Creek on district land? Are we going to say yes to that too? That was the number 3 priority. And so if we're saying this for number 25 priority, not to say that I'm not supportive of bike park. I have a daughter who's jumping up and down wanting to have that, and I really am supportive of that. As a board member, I just want to be sure that whatever precedent we're setting, we're doing it correctly. Because we have 24 other priorities that were on that master list. And are we saying to anybody who has the money, they can come in and build whatever they want in our district? I haven't heard really a lot of discussion about what kind of policy of ground rules we should be setting. But I think we should think about that a little bit more before we push forward, because I sort of still have RFQ, even though Michelle says it doesn't, quote, commit us. It's a commitment in a way, right? We're saying we're going to be doing this in some form or another. We're going to get a price. There's now a plan in place. Somebody actually took the time to do that. And I just want to be sure we're doing this correctly before we move forward with that. So that's my first comment. I'll stop there and say I want to give other people opportunities as well too, because I have other comments. Sandy.
I just want to clarify something. This RFQ is only for the feasibility study about whether this fits into that park. This is not a commitment to a particular amenity or to construct it. So I understand where you're coming from, Kui, and I would love to have more conversation about what a policy like that would look like. But to me, it doesn't interfere with moving forward to at least get a price on what a feasibility study would cost, because I think that's fair to the applicant here, because they're the ones who are going to have to pay for it, and we need to make sure we have a meeting of the minds about whether we can do this project and what it's going to cost to figure that out. So I think there have been a couple times tonight when you've mentioned $500,000 or the cost of actually putting it in. I just want to make sure that we're clear that what we're talking about this evening is really only the first phase, which is to consider the fitness of that particular amenity in that particular location. Is that correct, Michelle? That
is correct. And okay. Yeah, and and while the board can, consider, a future policy around sponsorships and partnerships and all of those things, the board has autonomy to decide at any given time whether a project is appropriate for the district and whether or not they want to enter into accept donation. So typically boards and city councils do this on a case-by-case basis. On purpose, and they do it so that they don't then lock themselves in with a specific policy, and as things change over time. So this isn't the first time we've entered into partnerships with the Pleasant Hill Baseball Association to create a storage facility. And so we somebody may come to us at some point in time down the road who wants to put in, let's say a cricket field, but they want to just donate some labor, and we go, okay, well, let's see if we can make this work. If it is something that, the board will have that decision to make on an individual basis. And so not many, other than sponsorship policies, as far as these, public-private partnerships, they're usually hammered out on a case-by-case basis because each of them are different and intricate. And so the Bay Area Bike Project came forward to the board. I know board member Kui and Vincent were on the board at the time, and they proposed this, sponsorship of this building, this amenity, and the board was intrigued because it is in the master plan. While it's low on the priority list, the board doesn't have the funding at this point in time to address everything in its master plan. We have $60 million worth of projects, and as you mentioned, a lot of things that are higher on the list, right? So, leveraging funds by a willing partner is a way for us to serve our residents without utilizing district funds and making district funds go a little further. And so the board at the time, when the Bay Area Bike Project came to the board, they said, yes, we're interested if you're willing to fund it. And let's, and so then we went and looked at, 6 different locations. This is the one that the project sponsor preferred. And so the board said, okay, we can move forward with the MOU to see if this fits in this. And that's what we're doing tonight, is this feasibility study to see if it fits. And so, if we find out that it's too, the Bay Area Bike Project's, proposal is too big to fit in that park, and then we can only do the pump track versus the entire project because the professionals say it's not feasible, then we'll have a conversation. Is this still a project you want to sponsor and or do we want to move it somewhere else? So, that is typically, that's how we're doing. So tonight is just for us to move forward with this next step, with this feasibility, so we can get this MOU to move forward with, and see if it even is a project. And then the board would then approve it at that point in time once we have a feasibility, and if it fits and we've analyzed all of the issues, and then we are confident and come forward with a project that staff and the Bay Area Bike Project are proud of, that we could then present to the board. So it's a roundabout way of me trying to say we kind of do this on a case-by-case basis on purpose.
Any other comments here? Okay, Vice Chair Glover.
Yeah, just I thought Michelle said it perfectly. I think it's just to focus on what the agenda item is tonight, and that is to authorize the request for qualifications. I think there will be an opportunity to have these very conversations in the future, but tonight we're really deciding to, how to get to that point. And this is a step that both sides have come together and said needs to happen. And so, I support that. My only concern, I wanted to get back to Vice Chair Secretary Bonato's. Maybe it's specifically, are there things that you think need to be added to that? Because I'm inclined to, support that effort. I just, since this has been going on for several years, and both sides, I think we authorized to start having these discussions a year ago. And both sides have come here with this proposal in hand. I'm inclined to move forward with it, but if there's specific recommendations, for things you'd like added to that, I'd love to hear that, because you're always on top of all those things. So I very much appreciate your comments.
Well, again, my concern is that we end up with getting applications or proposals that are as like and as realistic based on what we think we're going to need. I'm not so sure we need to put like specific requests for things in, but we could certainly put examples in of things that we think would need to be studied in terms of impact. Parking is an example of one that I think would need to be, that any applicant would need to recognize would need to be studied here. Safe access, to the amenity through the park and across the public streets. What are the impacts on safety and on access would be another one. Michelle mentioned noise. That it's kind of like it's not CEQA, but it's kind of like looking at impact things. And my suggestion was not so much to put in requirements into it as to put examples so that the applicants know kind of what we're thinking about.
I guess then, Mr. Chair Chess, through the chair, if a question to Michelle then would be, is this something that would be studied as part of this next step, or is this something that would be further down the road? And what do you think about adding those, examples of those things in there? Is that?
I would be in support of adding additional examples of, we already have technical studies, example noise, could add parking, access. We could put those, I could add those in. The first step is the design, getting a refined design, and then concurrently as part of that, there will be these, studies on, things that come up, one of those, could be parking. I anticipate that any landscape architect who is being asked to infill design an existing park would be taking those things into consideration and looking at that. But I can be specific on those examples.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Board Member Tran.
I do appreciate what Michelle and the other board members have said as well too. I'm hoping to respond to some of those comments. I am, and just to clarify, I'm not necessarily against getting pricing. I think that is pretty straightforward. If that's all we're getting, that's an easy answer, right? We should get pricing. I mean, that's what we need in order to move forward to discuss this. But I brought up the concept of policy or thinking about this to actually build on my second point, with that if we don't have these kinds of things, we often forget about what we need to do. If we're just thinking about money and what it would cost, we forget other things. And so one of the big things we committed to at the beginning of the year is every big project that we're doing, have we thought about the equity and inclusive components, and where are we ensuring that the project that we're moving forward with doesn't unfairly disadvantage another group. And I think that should be part of the feasibility study, not just the money aspects of it, but how are we, or what are we doing to commit to that principle? And I'll tell you what I mean by that, because it's kind of it took me a while to sort of form out my own thoughts in and around that, because when I was first rereading some of the meeting minutes, one of the things that sort of struck me when there was consideration in and around, where to build the bike park. I know there was a long discussion then at the facilities committee and the board meeting, and it kind of came down to Roger Smith, and that there's some talk about, whether in the north or in the west or other places. But what really struck me quite frankly was that the criteria for build ready, which is the criteria that Danielle put forward, what parks are build ready, are basically those parks that have had heavy investment in them already, right? And so Roger Smith Park clearly was the one when it was compared to all the other disadvantaged, unbuilt, underinvested parks, because none of the other parks had the stuff that Roger Smith had. And so Roger Smith clearly was the winner in all this. If you think about it, economically well-off areas that have heavy investments in parks tend to attract more park amenities, right? Park stuff begets more park stuff. While underdeveloped, neglected, underinvested parks in more impoverished areas don't get more amenities. I mean, this is the basic definition of spatial disparity. And so it was already set up so that a park with more amenities in an area that is a little bit well off will get the additional amenity. And there was no discussion in and around, are we unfairly disadvantaging other places that could also potentially benefit from a bike park as well too? So was the solution really we shouldn't build there because we've underinvested in it? Or should the solution been, why don't we invest in areas in our park system so that they could have had a chance to have had a bike park in their community as well too? And so I really want to make sure that the board, as we move forward with this, if the feasibility is just about money, then that's an easy question. But I want to be sure that we embed it, that if we're truly committed to the principles that we talked about at the beginning of the year, we should be actually be talking about this, right? And that's why I proposed the policy, because it forces us to then think about it. And yes, we can sort of, at any community partner, we can just do it ad hoc. We just kind of figure out it's a part of our ethos or values. But if we had some sort of thing where we said, what are the things that we need to consider when moving forward with the bike park or moving forward with a large project? These are things that we need to do. And I just want to be sure that we understand that every decision that we make, if we don't consider these, we're going to just leave it in the dust, right? We take the next step. The RFQ is complete. We take the next step. The MOU is complete. We take the next step. And we haven't talked about any of the other potential consequences of the steps that we're taking. I just want to be sure that we understand that. That's all.
Thank you. Sandy, you had Sandy Vincent, you had your hand up.
It's been an interesting discussion and hearing all the comments. I do support the bike park, but I also support doing this step that we didn't or that the board didn't necessarily contemplate last December when the MOU was authorized. This is a necessary step, and I think some of the comments from Secretary Bonato as far as adding some other examples, that's good. That will help ensure that we don't have to put out additional information later to the potential applicants that might respond to this RFQ. And we'll see what happens. I think it's a good step. I think the Bay Area Bike Project will be able to assess what they need to do so that they can go forward and we can move along. That's all I have tonight.
Yeah, one more thing. I'm sorry. I would be supportive if we added an equity piece into the RFQ, that there should be some analysis in addition to the cost of what is the impact, if we're talking about impacts, right, of putting a park in that particular part of town versus another part of town.
Sorry, I have a barking dog here. I mute myself for a second there. I'll go ahead and chime in on this, and I think it's a good idea to go ahead and I would ask Board Member Tran perhaps to kind of how Vice Chair Glover asked Secretary Bonato to provide specifics, maybe some ideas about specific considerations and specific questions. I would ask Board Member Tran maybe to offer some examples as well, and I'll in my comments, and if you want to go ahead and if you have anything to add at this time, you can add it, or we can talk, we can talk with Michelle. But I think I would want to hear. I mean, I don't think what you're saying, Board Member Tran, is a bad idea in any way, shape, or form. I just think I would like to have this process move forward, and I would like to get some specifics around kind of what are the lines of questioning that we might want to add to that. And if that means we wait, a couple weeks or whatever, so be it, right? We've waited this long to get to this point because the groups here haven't come together. And the reason why they haven't come together is because, well, I don't know all the reasons, but I can tell you that we're trying to protect our interests, right? We're trying to make sure, that we take this, very seriously, and we take it in such a way that we're as a district, it's not about whether we don't like the idea of a bike park. We just have to take into consideration all of the factors, right? And Board Member Tran brought up a new one, and that's something to consider. But I think this moving forward with this will tell us, if this is indeed the right park. For the record, I didn't vote for this being at Roger Smith Park. I just didn't think it was the right fit. I love the bike park idea, but I didn't think it was the right place for it to be. And so the beauty of this, I think, is to find out whether or not this is indeed the right place. Is it the right, the right amenity in the right park? And if it is something that's, I would be curious how we can add that equity component in there, because certainly that could certainly play a role in this. I'm not sure exactly how I would word that, and that's why I kind of asked that question at the beginning of my statement. But I think it's important that we move forward with this, and I'm in support of having it, because I think it's going to answer some questions that I have certainly about this, and obviously questions that you all have as well. So I am supportive of moving this forward. I would just like to maybe get a little bit more specifics around kind of what you were thinking there, Board Member Tran, the types of questions or types of ways to kind of weave this in so that a consultant can address it, I guess is what I mean.
Are you asking me to give suggestions right now, or to give that suggestions as we move forward to Michelle? Or
yeah, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I admit it. And so I think perhaps that's something that we can. I don't know if the board. I don't know if the board would want to. Look at that and add that in or not. I think we could have a motion and decide that. Or I'm not. I'm kind of talking this through a little bit. But yeah, I don't expect you to pen the question in this right now. But I think it wouldn't. I don't think it would hurt to ask them to address this.
Yeah. I mean, I came prepared, but I'm more than happy to send some thoughts to Michelle later on as well, and I can get some thoughts now as well too, if you wish. I want to make clear though that, like you said, and like you just said as well, I'm not against a bike park. Like I said, I think my daughter is chomping at the bit to try a bike park, and I'm not against the idea of moving forward to get pricing. I think that's pretty straightforward as well too. I just want to be sure that we're doing this, with due diligence and consideration for all the different aspects. And so that's the only I bring it up so that we don't get too far along and then say, oh, wait a minute, we didn't think about this impact. And so that's why I'm bringing it up.
But this is sorry to cut you off, but this is more than just pricing. We're not just getting pricing with it. I understand it, right? So we're looking at right. So we're going to look at all these things. Then if you want that in there, then I think it should be, or if the board agrees that we should have it in there, it should be in there, because this is more than pricing. I mean, we're going to be analyzing some things that are pretty fundamental to what my concerns were about this was safety, right? And and I expressed that at the time. And so those are the kinds of things that are important to me. And like you, I love the idea of a bike park. I'm with that, and I just think that this kind of, I think the things that a consultant should look at, are going to need to be spelled out a little bit better, which Board Member Bonato brought up, and I think are going to be addressed. I just think I'd like to get some other board members' thoughts on this. I mean, I don't. I want to bring it. Maybe we don't. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe we just move forward with this, and then at some point we weave this back into the conversation, Michelle. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to hold things up.
I mean, I can definitely look at how to weave this in. I appreciate Board Member Tran. This is a focus of ours, trying to make sure that we invest in underinvested areas. And while that is a focus, some of the things, the parcels that we have a lot of issues in those areas, and so that just aren't, unfortunately, they were knocked off the list for lots of other reasons besides build ready. And so, lack of parking. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things with that. But I think I understand the concept of looking at the amenities that we have in different areas of the park of the district, and how that may impact and how far away from underserved communities this amenity might be. And so I think we can work with the consultant and staff to, based on the information that we have from our master plan, and looking at that, I think we can probably do that analysis, and I can weave that in. But if Board Member Tran has any ideas on specifics wording, if you would like to send that my way for me to consider, I can definitely look at that.
I can certainly do that offline. Yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot there. I mean, I didn't mean to do that, but what I do mean is I would like to get, I'd like to get your thoughts weaved into this is really what I'm after on that. So. Secretary Bonanno.
I have a concern that we're kind of wandering away from really what the subject is this evening, which is about a feasibility study for a bike park in Roger Smith Park. The board has already made the decision to look at this park. I, like Zach, didn't vote to support this originally. It's my neighborhood park, and I have real concerns along the lines of what Ms. Tinsley was saying earlier. But it was also always understood that there would be a feasibility study, and my concerns, as a board member and as a neighbor, were going to be addressed. And that's really what this step is. I will say, too, that the board did consider, maybe we didn't use words like diversity and equity and inclusion, but we did look at other parks that we have in other parts of the town, like Shadowwood, and for one reason or another, it just didn't rise to the level of what Roger Smith had to offer. The bike park, the Bay Area Bike Project people, it would have certainly served a different area. I guess my point is twofold. Number one, while we didn't use those words, I think we were sensitive to the issue of finding more amenities for underserved areas of our community in making this recommendation. I think the Land and Facilities Committee took that into consideration as well. I guess the real issue here is, are we going to back up and start over again and look at other facilities and start doing comparisons again? Or are we going to stick with the decision that the board has made and move forward with a feasibility study on the park that the board majority supported? That's usually the way it works. But I'm also aware that new people can get on the board and have different opinions, about things, and it's possible to back up. So, Kui, if what you're suggesting is that we back up, which is I think what I'm hearing a little bit of, then I guess we should have that conversation. But what's really on the table tonight is whether we're going to approve an RFQ for Roger Smith Park and this particular project. I guess if we want to back up, we should vote no on proceeding with getting this RFP, or to use Zach's idea, maybe we wait a couple of weeks and we let all this kind of filter a little bit. I'm not sure that I'm supportive of that as much as it shoots me in the foot, maybe. I think what we need to do this evening is stick with our commitment that we've had so far and see if this is a good fit for that particular park. Looking at all the aspects of it, all the impacts. But if the board majority wants to back up and consider other sites, then we should consider that. I don't think that I want to this evening.
I don't think, and I'll go. I don't think I do either. Even though I did not want it in Roger Smith Park, the board at that point, that's what they voted to do. And I think this feasibility study that's why I want to move forward with it. I think it's going to tell the story. It's ultimately going to tell us if this is the right place for it. So if it is, it is, and if it is, it isn't. And so that's because and getting those answers will be great, because it wouldn't be fair for them if they chose that to them, or to us if it's not in the right place. So personally, I'm all for moving ahead. And Michelle, I think, said that she could weave in some consideration toward the aspect of inclusion into this proposal without significant delay at all.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Awesome.
Okay, I will go ahead.
I need to do one clarification. So to Secretary Bonato's point, I'm not advocating to back up or to stop at all. That's not what I'm advocating for. Like I said, I'm supportive. I just want it to be included. So if there's going to be an impact, I'm not saying that we should look at other parks, because like you said, it's already been done. That it just, what is the impact of putting it there? That is just not an economic impact, parking impact, safety impact. But I wanted just to be clear that we should be thinking about what equity impact or spatial disparity impact will also be done if that park goes there as well too. I think it should just be part of the analysis, not necessary that we have to step backwards at all. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And I believe that, with that would be part of the ultimate analysis that the board would consider the project as a whole as we move forward. So, because it could end up fitting there and being smaller, or that, and then the board could still decide that it's not the place you want to put it for a variety of reasons. So, Bobby?
Yeah.
No other comment? Bob?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the general manager to solicit requests for qualifications from interested firms to conduct public outreach and provide final conceptual design services for integrating a bike park into Roger Smith Park. And I'll add the comments by both Secretary Bonato and Board Member Tran that we include examples of areas of concern in there. And one of those would, in addition to the ones that Board Secretary Bonato mentioned, Board Member Tran mentioned equity analysis as well. If
we have a motion,
I will second that.
Board Member Tran.
And a second.
Board Member Tran.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Board Member Vinson.
Yes.
Secretary Bonato.
Yes.
Vice Chair Glover.
yes.
Chair Schiss.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Nothing. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Daniel. All right. Moving on to item 8, verbal reports from committee chairs and opportunity to set meeting dates. My facilities evidently met yesterday.
Yes, Chair Schiss, the Board Member Benson and myself met yesterday as the members of the Land and Facilities Committee. We had 2 agenda items, as you can see from the report. One was the bocce court resurfacing for both Roger Smith Park and Pleasant Hill Park bocce courts, and so that item will be coming to you soon. We also discussed potential projects for Prop 68 per capita grants, which are due by December 31st, 2021. Discussed a couple options at that, and that will be coming back to the board very quickly too. I think at our next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Michelle, do you need to set any meetings at this time?
Not this time.
Or will you be in touch? No, you'll be in touch?
I will most likely be in touch. I have a Land and Facilities Committee and a couple others. So, yep, we'll be in touch.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to item 9, board announcements and requests to staff. Board member Tran, lead us off, please.
Not too much. Just I want to report. Went to the city's Light Up the Lake event the past weekend. It was quite fun. I mean, have a chance to spend too much time there, but the time I did spend there was great. It's nice to see everybody out and about and having a good time. So that's definitely a difference from last year. But that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member Vincent.
I attended the hospice tree lighting on November 9th, and it was very well done as usual. There was a decent amount of people there. The weather was good, and it wasn't raining, so that was always a good thing. But it's just a very thoughtful event, and it turned out very nicely. That's all I have.
Thank you, Secretary Bonato.
I too attended the Light Up the Lake event and put luminaria in the lake at the end. It was very evocative. And anyway, congratulations again to the city on its 60th anniversary. I just wanted to report a success story at the community center today. My husband, who is not very AV oriented, did go over to the community center to prepare for a Rotarian presentation and asked Ryan Harriman to help him, and his presentation set up smoothly, and the sound and everything he said was great. So whatever it is we're doing over there, Michelle, kudos. I'm glad it was money well spent. And again,